Over 4 days, from December the 11th to 14th, 2025, Puffing Billy had a number of interesting operations occur over the entire railway. Along with the regular services, a Twilight Train and Christmas Carols charter operated during the week. But it was the action on the last day that made this weekend special. As Puffing Billy celebrated 125 years of the line's opening with a Community Day event. For one day, locals to the railway were able to get free tickets on Special Excursions, which made for a spectacular sight. The day included the rare sight of double-headed NAs to Lakeside NGG 16 number 129 hauling 100 tonnes up Emerald and Fielder banks. We also take a look at the Menzies Creek Museum and its impressive boiler house, along with the extremely rare sight of a passenger train stopped at Cockatoo. All this and much more in 762 Media's coverage of Puffing Billy's 2025 Community Open Day and other special trains in Puffing Billy Steam Celebration, 125 years of service. We begin our video on the afternoon of Thursday, December the 11th, 2025. It's 4:15 p.m. at the moment, and we are located just outside Lakeside to see newly returned to service 6A climb up grade to Emerald on the last regular service of the day from Lakeside. 6A returned to service at the end of November 2025 after its near 7-year absence from service. After passing through Emerald and Clematis, 6A and its 10-car consist climbs up into Menzies Creek past the down outer home signal in beautiful late afternoon light. Our last location to see this train is at a spot known as Sweet Pea Corner in Selby. On November 17th, the fire danger season for Victoria began, meaning that all trains at Puffing Billy are now followed by fire patrols until the end of summer. On this afternoon, Belgrave is a hive of activity, with ex-Queensland Railways DH5 shunting around the yard. Locomotive 8A has coupled onto 6A's carriages for it to haul tonight's Twilight Train to Lakeside. But first, it must shunt to East Loop to allow 6A to go to the Belgrave running shed for engine requirements. With 6A now in the engine shed, 8A pushes its consist back into the platform.
They're coming.
Now that 8A is in the platform and passengers are boarding the train, DH5 pulls out of 2 Road and also heads to East Loop to allow it to push up into 3 Road for more shunting work. DH5 was built for the QR in 1968 and entered service at Puffing Billy in 2010. The Twilight Train is scheduled to depart at 5:30 p.m. With the fully laden train only 15 minutes behind time, it departs for Menzies Creek and Lakeside. We will see this train at a number of unusual locations, starting at a spot a few hundred metres past the landslide, as 8A does the final climb up the 1 in 40 grade into Menzies Creek. Menzies Creek is the first staff station on the line. Here, a new authority is given to the train and the fire patrol following, before departure for Lakeside. In our next scene, we see the 1908 Newport-built 262 tank engine, climb the steep 1 in 30 grade of Emerald Bank near Pinnock's Cutting, halfway up the climb. Our last location on the down run is at Superman Corner near Nobelia Station, as the train runs downhill down to Lakeside. At Lakeside, passengers have the option of buying dinner at the Lakeside Visitor Centre or have a walk around the lake, while the crew have a break before returning to Belgrave, departing at 8 p.m. Having crested the grade at Emerald, the train now runs down Emerald Bank into Clematis. Seeing a Puffing Billy service at golden hour is rather uncommon. However, we were lucky to see 8A approach Menzies Creek in beautiful evening light right on sunset. From here, on a clear day, you can see all the way out to Port Phillip Bay. With safe working completed at Menzies Creek, 8A returns to Belgrave, ending our coverage for this day. The following day, Friday December the 12th, Puffing Billy operated another Twilight service to Lakeside, this time a charter for a Christmas Carols event at Emerald Lake Park, hauled by 1905 built 7A. We first see the train at the Monbolt Creek Trestle Bridge. We next see the train cross Selby Oil Road, the halfway point between Belgrave and Menzies Creek. An unusual occurrence in recent years is trains stopping at Emerald. However, the charter stopped here to pick up passengers before continuing on to Lakeside. We conclude our coverage of this service here. Finally, on December the 14th, we are back at Menzies Creek, this time to begin our coverage of the Puffing Billy Community Open Day, which was organised to celebrate 125 years since the line's opening on December the 18th, 1900, running to a special timetable. The first of 3 trains for the day was a 15-car long train, with 8A and 7A providing the power for this 113-tonne train. At Menzies Creek, the train is stopped for 50 minutes to allow passengers to visit the Menzies Creek Steam Museum. It also allows the crew of 8A to top up the water tanks on the engine before the rest of the trip to Lakeside. The cool thing about the Community Day timetable was the lengthy stops at stations not normally regularly served by the railway, being Menzies Creek, Emerald and even Cockatoo. All passengers on this day were locals to the railway, with all tickets being free of charge to allow the railway to say thank you to the community. With watering completed, 8A returns to the front of the train in preparation for the run to Emerald. From mid-June to mid-November, 8A had been out of service getting new tyres on the driving wheels. The museum was a hive of activity, with passengers getting to explore beautifully restored exhibits, such as the Corval 040 Carbon, along with the railway's smallest and biggest locomotives, being Clematis and G42, the latter of which has been out of service since early 2021, awaiting an overhaul prior to returning to steam. Another popular exhibit is Shay Locomotive number 14, which used to run in Taiwan on the Alishan Forest Railway, where some sister engines are still operating. The museum also has a beautifully presented working display of a number of steam-powered stationary engines, run using their boiler house. It's now time to get back to the action, as it's now time for 8A and 7A to continue to their next stop of Emerald. With the departing home signal at Proceed, the train departs in a cloud of steam as they head downhill towards Clematis. The sight of double NAs beyond Menzies Creek is no longer common, making the climb up Emerald Bank a popular and spectacular sight. We see the train at the first right-hand curve on the bank. After a 15-minute run, the train arrives at its next stop of Emerald. Here the train is stopped for an hour, allowing passengers to explore the town, something definitely not common. Trains have not been timetabled to stop at Emerald in regular service since early 2021. Here, Locomotive 7A is watered by the crew of Alan Johnson and Dan Gilliland, with the crew on 8A being Graham Cornish and Lindsay Rickard. The guard on this train was Lachlan Campbell. At 12:10, 8A and 7A continue their run to Lakeside, departing Emerald with a large crowd of onlookers enjoying the sights and sounds of the two engines. Following close behind was the Gembrook service, hauled by former South African NGG 16 class Garrett, number 129. We see it climb Emerald Bank at 4 different locations as it storms up grade with its 96-tonne train. After a short safe working stop at Emerald, the train runs downhill to Lakeside. We see it pass the Nobilia's Siding packing shed. Lakeside is another 50-minute stopover for this train, allowing passengers to walk around the Emerald Lake Park and the Lakeside Visitor Centre, while the crew service the locomotive prior to continuing to Cockatoo and Gembrook. Number 129 was built in 1950 at Bay of Peacock's Gorton Works in Manchester, England, for use on the South African Railway's 2-foot gauge railway system. A total of 34 of these engines were built between 1937 and 1968. 129 arrived at Puffing Billy in late 1996 to be rebuilt and re-gauged to 2-foot 6-inch gauge as a backup engine for G42. Its rebuild was completed in 2019. With everyone back on board, the Garratt departs Lakeside, bound for its next stop at Cockatoo. The sight of a scheduled stopover at Cockatoo Station is extremely rare, with the station platform even undergoing upgrading works prior to the day to allow better access for passengers. The train was scheduled to have an hour-long stop here prior to continuing up the notorious Fielder Bank to the terminus at Gembrook. With driver Steve Strangwood and fireman Justin Fowler in control of the Garratt, the big 62-tonne engine makes a magnificent sight climbing the hardest grade on the railway. We see it at 2 locations after Cockatoo, being Fielder Station and Fielder Bridge. We'll now leave the train here and return to Emerald. At Emerald, 12A has just arrived on the afternoon trip to Lakeside, with all the passengers currently in the centre of town. Meanwhile, a 1927 Foden steam truck is driving around the streets of the town, seen here first passing the War Memorial site next to the Emerald RSL. Our final shot of the day is 12A departing Emerald and passing the Foden steam truck, making a pretty fitting end to a very busy weekend of steam action in the Dandenong Ranges. We hope you have enjoyed this video titled Puffing Billy's Steam Celebration, 125 years of service. Please like, comment and subscribe, and we will see you next time on 762 Media. Whew.